We've been going to Marion Methodist for 18 years. We actually joined the church. We're not from Iowa, but we joined the church when our oldest daughter was born. And I remember sitting in the hospital looking at her thinking, I can't do this by myself. I need to find a church. And so I went to church, and at that time the pastor was Pastor Stan, and he led an old-fashioned hymn sing, playing the piano for the congregation, and I fell in love with the church, and we joined the same day that we had Melanie baptized. And it was actually the same time that we moved into this house and met the Knapps, who are, Ron and Kim have been our neighbors.
And we were struggling, I guess I was struggling more than maybe Ron was with our former church and wanting to go to church. I'd make up, I want to sleep in, or I'm going to take the summer off. And when our oldest Beth was starting to get of age to get through confirmation, we just kind of sat down and we decided, hey, we need to figure something out here.
My husband Jared and I moved to Cedar Rapids in 2012. I work for the Blood Center. I usually tell people I'm sort of like an event planner, but for blood drives. So I had just started, and I was going out to all the blood drives that we work with in the area, and I met Dan and Kay Chia at one of them in Marion.
Well, Lisa had never been to our church before, and she contacted me. We met, and we were just talking about the church, and I invited her then to come to the church and look the space over.
I mentioned something about, I bet there's really good cookies at that blood drive because the UMW always makes really good cookies. And because I said UMW, he said, oh, you must be Methodist.
Are you going to church anyplace? And she said, well, no, they hadn't been able to find a church yet. And I said, well, I know of a really good one.
We mentioned the confirmation program at Marion Methodist and what a good experience we had as small group leaders, and what a good experience the kids that had been involved seemed to all have, and that sounded very appealing to them. And so we just suggested, well, why don't you come to church with us, and let's pick a date and let's have you guys come and sit with us.
It was easy to go because they had invited us. We waited in the street, caravanned up together, so they showed us kind of the ins and outs, how to get into the building, where they sat, and honestly, we still sit in the same spot, same pew.
They met us at 8:30 up there in our front left pew, and from there, I think it's been a real blessing for all of us.
So if you happen to be sitting in our pew in the left front, you're in our spot.
Oh yeah, that was terrible. I shouldn't have said that.
It's okay.
Dan and Kay invited us to attend Marion Methodist and really just felt welcomed there. It was nice and warm. We did like that it felt like more of a traditional church, which is what he and I both grew up in. That's what we found our comfort level and where we felt like home.
We walked in that church and everybody was so welcoming. It was like the pastor, the sermon, they were talking directly to us. Even we were impressed with the prayer, the community service.
Pastor Mike, when you stand and greet one another, he was immediately over, shaking our hands.
Since we've been members of the church, we had been hoping for a baby for a few years, but just didn't seem to be in God's plan. Unfortunately, we had 3 losses. And Pastor Mike was good enough to come and sort of help us get through that. He came to the house, and we were able to sort of talk with him and pray with him about what we were going through. And so the church was really present. Several members of the church were praying for us, even though we weren't able to necessarily talk about it with them because it was a rough time. And so it was just nice to know that we had all this comfort surrounding us at the church. And so now that we have Ethan, it was so nice to have all the members of the church really be rejoicing with us, essentially. So Ethan has been quite popular.
What's wonderful is that they are all a part of our family. Lisa has brought her beautiful soprano voice to our choir. They have brought a new child into our church, and our church now has a new child that we can help grow. All of that kind of started, I think, with a discussion about United Methodist Women cookies.
We've also been able to bring Ron's parents, Sharon and Gary, over. And we've also, I've been working on my sister for a while, and has begun to come. So that's been a positive for us too. And it's basically all because the Nobles reached out one day and said, hey, come join us. And it's just snowballed from there.
Because being part of the church has always been important to me, I had always kind of sought out my own church home, but I've never been invited to a church until coming to Marion Methodist, and Dan and Kachia asked us to come. So that was really encouraging, knowing that somebody was thinking about us, wanting us to join the church, and sort of actively looking for us on Sundays, wanting to know if we were there.